welcome back into cherry picking. Today's video, must-add for week 21 of the fantasy hockey season. Playoffs are getting close. If you're in a weird league, maybe your playoffs have started, but I doubt it. I'm recording this also on NHL trade deadline day, the Friday. As of right now, it seems like Mikko Rantanen is going to be a Dallas Star, and the most recent trades that have happened is Scott Laughton is a Leaf. Brandon Tanev is on the Jets. The Jets also traded for defenseman. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Dylan Cozens is on the Sens, and Norris is on the Sabres. A little swap there. We'll talk about those two guys. I think those two guys are definitely viable must-add players. But as always, before we get into the players, the video presented by FanDuel Canada, North America's #1 sportsbook. That link is in the description below to download that. But let's get into the must-add players for this week. All right, so the first guy we're going to be picking up is Josh Norris, now on the Buffalo Sabres. As I mentioned in the intro, traded for Dylan Cozens and Jacob Bernard-Docker. 31% rostered right now. I wonder how that number will change. I feel like it'll probably go up a little bit, just like the opportunity is better. The one biggest thing we've seen for the Sens and the problem for the Sens all year has been their even strength scoring goals. They haven't been able to do it really. Mainly of their goals are coming on the power play. The Sabres, on the other hand, one of the top-rated offenses in the NHL, I'd say, since the start of February, even going back into January a little bit. Their offense is really clicking. Alex Tuch, who it seems like Josh Norris could be on his line, is having a very solid, or had a very solid February. And then that top line as well. We've seen Yuri Kulik play center there recently. I wonder if Norris will get a chance on the top line with Peterka and Thompson. At this moment, too, Peterka hasn't been traded, but I've also heard that he might get traded to the New York Rangers, so time will tell with that. A lot of moving pieces, but I think it's worth, if you need a center at this point, giving Josh Norris a test at least this week, or kind of see if you can have the opportunity to kind of wait and see how he does. But he could be a player that could be very advantageous to your team come the fantasy hockey playoffs. So the next player we're picking up, Dylan Cozens on the Ottawa Senators, 25% rostered, 11 goals, 20 assists on the Buffalo Sabres so far this year. But now in the Sens, maybe we see the Sabres, the post-Sabres bump that we've seen from a lot of players that have been traded from there. You know, Brandon Montour had that when he went to Florida. Sam Reinhart, same thing when he went to Florida. Jack Eichel when he went to Vegas. Linus Ullmark when he went to Boston. Now, maybe it's not the same caliber of team that he's going to in Ottawa, and they're struggling to score right now, but I feel like just a fresh start for Cozens will really help. I still believe that this guy could have a very solid NHL career, and it could start here in Ottawa. They have a lot of talent around him, arguably more than Buffalo if you're just looking at it on paper. They just haven't been able to execute. But, you know, if he's playing on a line with Drake Batherson and David Perrell, that could work. I don't see him obviously cracking on that first line with Stützle, Giroux, and Tkachuk, because that's been working solid for them, at least even strength, but they need to mix things up. So maybe they do give it a shot. But that makes your centers just as strong as it was before with Stützle, Cozens, and Pinto down the middle now. To see if Dylan Cozens can maybe revive his career, revitalize something, maybe he gets a spot on that first power play as well. But at 25% rostered, same thing with Norris. If you're in a pinch and need a center, or you know one of your centers got hurt, one of them has lost value, and you just are in a spot where you need a center, it's worth taking a chance on these guys whose roles are a little bit different. Similar, could be very similar, but we could see them exceed expectations of what we see them set the bar kind of for the entire season. The next guy we're picking up, Jonathan Drouin on the Colorado Avalanche. Crazy that this guy is still 21% rostered, but now with the addition of Brock Nelson, who Colorado traded for, gave a first-round pick in Cal Ritchie. A lot of people are saying it's an overpay. It's a lot of assets if you think of how good Cal Ritchie can be and what a first-round pick can turn into be, but Brock Nelson is producing right now, and this will elevate Jonathan Drouin's fantasy hockey availability and production, in my opinion, a lot. Still playing on that first power play, but now has an even better second line center that he's playing with Nichushkin on the other side. Brock Nelson, career high, I believe, in goals this year, or on pace for a career high. He's been a very solid scorer for the Islanders over the past 3 to 4 seasons as well. So I think he'll flourish on this team, a Colorado team that's been looking for the second line center. They can bump Middlestat down to the third line, or at this point, as I mentioned, still recording on deadline day, he could be traded. I feel like the Devils are a good destination maybe for Middlestat at this point with Hughes now on LTIR. But yeah, really like the addition for the Avalanche with Brock Nelson. I think it's really going to help Jonathan Drouin's fantasy hockey production. I think it'll help Nichushkin's as well, but Drouin is certainly more available right now at 21% rostered and has had very solid production with the few games, I guess you could say it, this year. 30 games played, 8 goals, 19 assists. So Drouin, 21% rostered, probably my favorite pickup this week. All right, the next guy we're going to be picking up is Warren Foegele on the LA Kings. 14% rostered right now. Over the last 2 weeks, really since coming back from Four Nations, he has been probably one of the better players on the LA Kings. If you look at his offensive production as well, in terms of like the offense he's creating, not just the points he's getting, which he's racking those up as well. On the season now, 17 goals, 16 assists through 60 games, and he had a pretty slow start. But over the last week, leads all players in individual expected goals for, so an individual offense created. He leads all NHL players. And even if you look back to the restart, I guess you could say it, from the Four Nations break, I believe he's going to be leading that category as well. Creating a ton of offense play on that third line with Danault and Trevor Moore, but he's playing a lot. Like, he's played over the last 4 or 5 games the same amount of time at even strength than Adrian Kempe. Now, his power play time isn't going to be as much as a guy like Adrian Kempe, but if you look at their last 4 or 5 games, again, his power play time, same as Quinton Byfield, who is way higher rostered than Warren Foegele. Granted, plays with better players at 5-on-5, but right now, a lot of their offense is being generated from that third line. And with the Kings having 4 games this week, I think it's a really, really good option to maybe look at Warren Foegele as a streamer, especially considering he has that left wing and right wing capability. All right, so the sneakiest pickup of the week, or one of 2 of the sneakiest pickups of the week, in my opinion, is Darren Raddysh on the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you're in need of a defenseman right now, going into the playoffs, this could be one of the better pickups if his role stays where it is. Victor Hedman, for whatever reason, either got hurt or only played a couple minutes in their last game, but Darren Raddysh is now playing on the first power play and scored in their most recent game. It has like 4 points in their last 2 games, is playing a lot more. At this point of the season, you just don't really see an opportunity like this arise in fantasy hockey, especially with a guy who's 7% rostered right now. Like, 28 points on the season is actually pretty solid as well. One of their better offensive defensemen, I would say, apart from Victor Hedman and maybe JJ Moser, you could say too. But there's something to be said about Darren Raddysh being put on that first power play unit, considering how good it is and how important it is to the Lightning. And he's been able to be effective on it as well. So at 7% rostered right now, blocks a decent amount of shots. His shot total for the season is pretty solid as well. I would take a risk on Darren Raddysh, especially at 7% rostered. If you're in those deeper leagues too, he's probably going to be available. He's a sneaky pickup. I'm telling you, he's a sneaky pickup. All right, and the best pickup of the week, 2% rostered, somehow still, Mackie Samoskevich on the Florida Panthers, playing the right wing position. With Matt Tkachuk out, this guy's role has just completely elevated. He's playing on the first power play. He scored the other night. He scored a ton since the Four Nations restart, especially with Tkachuk out. He's playing on that second line with Sam Bennett right now. Absolutely flourishing. Loves the spot in front of the net, scoring a bunch of garbage goals. But this is a Florida team that usually generates the shot attempt share in the game, is usually getting a bulk of the shots on net. Samoskevich is playing that new role that Tkachuk generally plays but can't because he's injured. And Paul Maurice, his teammates, have had nothing but good things to say about Mackie Samoskevich. As he continues playing that line with Sam Bennett and Evan Rodriguez too, it's not like he's playing with Barkov and Sam Reinhart and Carter Verhaeghe, where he's not going to have opportunities to actually go and score or shoot. You know, it's going to be trusted in the arms of those guys who score a ton of goals. But with Sam Bennett and Evan Rodriguez, not that the playing field is even, because those guys have established pretty solid careers, but he's going to have a little bit more of an opportunity. And I think we're seeing that right now. So Mackie Samoskevich at 2% rostered. He has 11 goals and 10 assists in 54 games played. I want to say 75% of that has come in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Mackie Samoskevich will be a very important pickup for the fantasy hockey playoffs. 2% rostered. By next week, I bet you he'll be 20% or higher. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Shout out to FanDuel Canada for sponsoring the video. Hope you guys are enjoying the NHL trade deadline show. Fantasy hockey playoffs are coming up, so we'll continue to pump out these videos. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.